So hello, everybody, and welcome to our next session at Security Bio Live. For this Innovator interview, I'm joined by Varma, the CEO of Princeton Identity, and we're going to talk about all things biometrics and iris on the move technology. So thank you, Bobby, for joining me. I really appreciate your time. Can we start by introducing yourself and giving us a little insight into the history and heritage of Princeton Identity?
Absolutely, Rebecca. Thank you for having me here. And I'm, looking forward to talking about biometric technology. So regarding Princeton Identity, I would say we have been the innovator when it comes to iris on the move technology. We have been in the field for about 20 years, coming from inception. The technology started at SRI. They are known for cutting edge, bleeding edge technology, worked with a lot of the government entities, really innovated the technology and brought it to commercialization in around 2016, 2018. And since then, we have really, really focused on user experience, creating, our motto is creating security with convenience. And that's what we have kind of really leaned into when it comes to iris on the move technology.
Well, fantastic. I know that when you think about biometrics or iris technology, Princeton is the first name that comes to mind. So it's a privilege to be able to talk this through with you, and such a rich history as well as a company. It's a company that's been around for a long time. So just to start this interview with an overarching question, in your opinion, what are the biggest trends that you see taking center stage in 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, so I'm sure, Rebecca, everybody's been hearing about biometrics for specifically around point of sales. You think about Amazon talking about, look, we're using palm vein for creating convenience around our user experience. Apple just announced in 2024, they're going to be using iris technology for their virtual reality, virtual glasses. And again, we believe biometrics, and I can't explain this, but I am finally excited to hear that biometrics is becoming more prevalent. I've been in the industry for 25 years, and it's always been a conversation around, what is the biometrics being used for? The PII concerns that exist around there, but now with the younger generation being more adaptive around, hey, I want to create convenience. I want something right now that when it comes to applications, I want to access information. So again, it's becoming more prevalent. People don't want to remember. I mean, I will tell you a number of times I've forgotten my username or password, right? So again, people don't want to create the friction around the convenience factor. So biometrics are becoming more prevalent, more than ever, in every application domain, from point of sales to time and attendance. Now, access control has been around for a number of years, but now you're seeing Goliath companies like Apple and Amazon and Google really taking this technology to the next step.
So definitely, I think you raised a couple of really poignant points there. The first is we are faced with a new generation that is being brought up around new technology. New phones come out every single year. New, generative AI and the interest in that is just skyrocketed. So the ability to actually, like I said, adapt that new technology into a generation that is susceptible to new technologies, changes. It's a whole different ballgame. And secondly, like you said as well, it was only in the office the other day where we were all comparing how many weak passwords our phone had identified across all the multitude of apps and accounts and that we have. We live in a digital age. We kind of trade our data like it's a currency, but we need to still protect that data. So if we can do that in an easy and efficient way, and especially, everything's moving to wearables and mobile, that's definitely something that, it's an exciting time, I think.
It is. And I think, as you probably hear about this, two-factor authentication is becoming something that's more just secure your information, right? It's becoming more prevalent. So if you know right now, Rebecca, I have to not only remember my password, but I have to carry my mobile to kind of get my PIN code. So again, the user experience is very pivotal when it comes to digesting technologies, right? Adopting technologies. So the easier you make for the end user, the probability of adoption becomes greater statistically, right? So again, if you, instead of carrying your phone and remembering your password, if you can create a single step user experience where you just walk up to a technology, it authenticates you without you remembering carrying anything. It becomes more of a application that younger generation is willing to adopt.
Definitely. And obviously, like I said, we're going to be talking about all things biometrics. But as we spoke about, Princeton is an innovator in the field of iris on the move technology. So I'd like to start there. Could you just clarify what exactly this means and give us a little insight into this technology?
So absolutely. And I'm sure you hear about all the various different modalities that exist in this space with this vertical. You talk about when it comes to biometrics technology, people usually lean towards facial recognition. Now Amazon talking about palm vein, and now I'm sure Apple talking about iris technology, WorldCoin talking about iris technology. What distinguishes Princeton Identity technology, which is iris on the move? Majority of the solutions that exist out there, you have to, as a user, stop in order to get authenticated, even a fraction of a second, but you do have to stop. So where Princeton Identity really discriminates themselves and distinguish themselves is where you don't, as a user, have to do the work. So it's all about, again, going back to user experience, creating on the move technology. As the end user, you are not stopping you're not breaking your stride. As you walk up to the solution or the device itself, it authenticates you and you continue doing what you need to get done, right? So in the cases of, for example, you talk about immigration, you talk about point of sales, you talk about time and attendance. In those cases, when you have larger volume of people, you don't want to create a bottleneck where people are standing in line. So what we have done is we have created technology where there's no bottleneck. As you're walking through, you're going to get authenticated. And again, that's going to alleviate lines.
I'm not sure how the UK will feel. Us Brits love a queue. As soon as we see a line of traffic, we will join it, even if we don't need to. But no, I think what iris technology does as well is there's a lot of myths, a lot of kind of controversy around facial recognition. But the facial recognition, there lies a lot of areas or gaps for fault or for negatives. But iris is, similar to a fingerprint, it is completely unique. So, it just enhances that security measure a little bit further. And also it enables it to be used in different types of environments as well. So, could you talk a little bit about how iris on the move technology allows individuals to be recognized in kind of diverse environments, perhaps with accessories? We've just come out of a pandemic, with masks wearing, glasses, all of those kind of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you kind of hit the nail on the head when it comes down to being very unique. Iris is extremely unique when it comes to you. Just to kind of give you a context around that, iris has 256 unique points compared to fingerprint, which has 40, right? So as you have more and more unique characteristics, and each eye is very unique. So you literally have, with two irises, you actually have literally two different biometrics that exist there. So the uniqueness of iris is also when you authenticate using iris technology, you eliminate, because it uses near IR technology, you eliminate any color biases that exist there, which exist for facial recognition, right? So you exclude any biases. It's very unique to you with 256 points. Again, so it creates, that's why one of the reasons WorldCoin is using to enroll the whole entire world population is because of the fact that it's so unique, and the probability of somebody getting authenticated as you is 1 out of 1.4 billion people. So the uniqueness of iris is, it allows us to enroll one-to-end. When I talk about one-to-end, that means a large database compared to other, biometric modalities that exist out there. So somebody being authenticated as you, Rebecca, the probability is very little compared to, when you talk about 1.1 out of 1.4 billion people. And when you start to do both irises, it becomes even more unique to you as a signature of your biometrics compared to any other modality that is out there.
Definitely. I mean, there's some incredible statistics there. You're going to find me later on and looking at myself in the mirror, trying to spot the mistake between my eyes. But yeah, I mean, once again, you pointed out something that is, the biggest controversy with facial recognition is the bias, whether it's, unconscious bias, how you feed that algorithm to recognize, differences or similarities, so being able to absolutely adapt to that, it's the feature. So it's, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. And I want to point out another thing, which is, we talk about, especially around iris technology with, even with DNA, and twins, right? The ability to discriminate between twins is, when it comes to DNA, it still has, it has its own issues. And I should say that because it's very hard to even distinguish twins when it comes to even your DNA. With iris, again, the uniqueness exists. I think that's the only modality that can actually distinguish within two people who are twins, right? So that's another uniqueness. Again, when you start to think about how iris is so unique to you as a biometric, you start to think about, oh my God, that actually from a perspective of really discriminating and really creating the unique signature around a biometric, in my opinion, iris is one of the most unique features that exist on a person.
And one of the oldest as well. I mean, interesting fact, your iris is originally kind of developed when you're pregnant and as a baby, your iris starts to develop. I think it's week 6 or week 7, even before your face is fully formed, or you have bones in your arms or your limbs, all things like that. So it's incredible to think that actually that identification method goes back to the earliest kind of point of recognition. So it's amazing, this incredible technology. Plus, eyes are very, very amazing, just in general.
No, I agree with that too.
Yeah,
they are.
And in terms of, obviously, we mentioned how biometrics is seen as a fairly relatively new branch of security technology. Not that it hasn't been around for a while, it has still been around for a while. But despite its rapid revolution, there's still a lot of challenges and myths, like we've mentioned. But can you talk about the progression and challenges around facial recognition and AI?
So, Rebecca, yes, as you probably know, there are a lot of concerns around artificial intelligence and facial recognition, right? Because in every conversation that's been out there, it's all about can face be simulated using artificial intelligence? And there have been a number of studies done that are out there that even government entities are putting in procedures how to utilize AI when it comes to facial recognition. And around iris, it comes down to, because the type of technology that's being used, which is near IR. So there are two specific, I would say, biometric factors that exist out there that are very cannot be spoofed when it comes to artificial intelligence. So when you talk about palm vein, that was one of the big reasons Amazon has employed that technology, as well as iris technology is concerned. So those are the two technologies that use near IR and cannot be, at the current, I should say, time, cannot be spoofed using artificial intelligence. So that's why many of the companies out there are concerned about using facial recognition with the rise of artificial intelligence, and they are leaning more and more towards other factors. So I know iris is definitely very prevalent out there now with palm vein, and more companies are looking at other biometrics instead of using facial recognition because of the concerns that exist around artificial intelligence.
Mm. Yeah, I think definitely when you're talking about kind of iris simulation technology, we're living in a world with deep fakes at the moment. Hackers and criminals are becoming so much more intelligent when it comes to utilizing that technology. And us, the good guys, are trying to have to work within these barriers of legislation and kind of regulations about what is ethical, what is not in terms of technology. But they don't have to do that. So if we can find and utilize a technology where it mitigates that ability for spoofing, for deep fakes, for simulation, that's our end goal. Obviously technology will evolve over time, and I'm sure this will evolve over time. And 10, 20 years, we'll be talking about how iris might be spoofable. But for the time being, if we got the opportunity to use that technology, then that's exactly what we should be doing.
Right. Yeah. And again, as I said, Rebecca, I mean, when it comes to biometric technology and artificial intelligence or ML, machine learning, any of those new technologies that are evolving, when it comes to the world of, it's a dichotomy, right? Because you want to use artificial intelligence to simulate what people can do, but at the same time, you want to preserve their identity. So again, applying artificial intelligence for biometrics, it's a completely two different worlds, right? You don't want to do that because again, now you are compromising somebody's identity. However, artificial intelligence can be used more from a context of data analysis, looking at various different patterns that will allow us to kind of assess somebody's behavior once you're identified, right? So again, it can take the technology to the next evolution, and I'm sure next evolution of how this technology can be used. Once you do the identification, you can determine their patterns of their behavior, and then you can apply that technology to kind of assess human nature, right? Or, for example, for understanding people's pattern of buying things or how they actually go to work, and apply efficiencies around that as well. So yes, but applying artificial for biometrics,
I think,
you completely defeat the purpose, right? At that point.
Definitely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head then. At the moment we use kind of, analytics and AI to an extent for marketing needs, for retail environments, for, to assess the different things. It'll be interesting to see how it can be applied to biometrics down the line. But in the spirit of obviously protecting data and biometric data, can you explain a little bit about the security protocols that are employed, to protect that data?
Yeah, and I think, again, I think many of the biometric technology manufacturers are really focused on that piece of it because, again, once you identify your identity is compromised, somebody else steals it, then it becomes extremely, it becomes a concern, an issue, because you can't really change your biometrics. If somebody actually has your biometrics, or passwords and PIN codes can be changed, right? So I know companies in this arena are very, very thoughtful and really focused on how to protect that information. So majority of the companies, first of all, don't, and including Princeton Identity, we don't store your images. So that means if somebody does get access, as you said, there's, hackers are becoming more and more sophisticated when it comes down to getting access to the information. We don't store images. So we only store templates, and even the templates, we encrypt that information. So even if somebody gets access to it, they can't really use them, and templates can't be reversed and create images to become your identity. So, we double protect it, and just making sure that information is not, even if somebody gets, because we know hackers are going to get access to that information because it's a challenge for them. But even if they get the information, they cannot do anything with the information.
I think that's one of the biggest myths as well, is the fact that people assume that biometric data is the same as, like you said, your password, for example. I think we've been carried away with the Mission Impossibles and the film Hollywood. It's not as you can't reverse engineer data like that. It doesn't work like that. But knowing that the seriousness and the importance is centralized around that biometric data, that's definitely something to consider. It's very easy to, it's very easy to, like you said, to put a new authenticator on or change your password and add an extra character. But yeah, you can't exactly go and swap out your eyes. So.
Right. And I think also, and I know multiple, including Princeton Identity, is looking at, using blockchain as a way to, protect your data, right? There are a number of other technologies now being employed just to kind of ensure that information is protected and not, somebody doesn't have access to it and cannot change that information.
And, we started the interview around the kind of the theme of user experience. And obviously that's a continuous trend, and we're seeing it in all areas, not just biometrics. But is this why manufacturers, like Princeton, for example, are starting to include mobile credentials in their systems, or wearables, smartwatches, all of those kind of additional technologies?
Yeah, I mean, again, as you know, the world, I would say since COVID, we're seeing the evolution of technology leapfrog, right? We're seeing more and more technologies emerge, and changing within 6 to 9 months, right? So a lot of our enterprise level customers, when we have conversations with them, they talk about, well, is this technology still going to be relevant 6 to 9 months? Again, are you going to be able to have it where it is future proof, right? Currently, we always talk about, yes, we want the flexibility, we want the future proof when it comes to technology, because again, you don't want to spend enormous amount of money. They're always looking at return on investment. You don't want to spend an enormous amount of money and then suddenly it becomes irrelevant in 6 to 9 months, right? So that defeats the purpose. So we always are looking at adding new factors as part of our flexibility composition, right? So we understand not 100% of your population is going to enroll in biometrics. So mobile credentials is becoming more prevalent out there. Although I believe, Rebecca, and I'll say this, I believe that mobile is a stopgap when it comes to evolution of technologies. I think as human beings, we're going to evolve from where mobile is going to become. That's why if you think about Apple, right, their future map is IoT, wearable devices, right? So I think mobile is going to be something that's going to become archaic, and everything is going to evolve into using wearables, IoT devices. So we understand for now that it is becoming, it's a stopgap. We'll use mobile credentials, but eventually, or even Princeton Identity technology is considered as an IoT devices where it's going to get embedded. And if you think about it, that's where we're already looking at the future map of Iris on the Move, where you as a human being, as a person, doesn't have to stop. And that kind of ties the whole conversation around IoT devices and on the move technology, because again, you want as a human being to be able to get access to information, access to a facility without actually doing something different. So I believe the future is going to be all about creating convenience, creating user experience with not sacrificing security, right? That's not what you want to do. So that's why Iris on the Move technology becomes very relevant in that conversation.
And just in the spirit of IoT and integration, obviously you mentioned there that technology is continuously evolving. And we don't want to be in a position where you have a system that you've implemented and then actually 2 years or 5 years, 10 years down the line, it's not future proof, and you need to enlist a new type of technology. Is Princeton Identity's technology integratable or interoperable with other manufacturers, for example?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's something, when we first brought out you always, as a technology company, every technology company constantly has to look at, it can't exist in its own domain, right? It has to be able to integrate and be interoperable with other technologies that exist out there. And we have done a very, very good job of being able to think ahead of time. So yes, absolutely. We have the ability to integrate with other access control softwares, essentially we have built APIs and SDKs that has the ability to integrate with other ones, but not just from a perspective of software, but there are other hardware solution as well. So as we talked about mobile credentials, as we think about palm vein technologies, as we think about other biometrics that are going to be coming on, we have the ability and the capability to, ingest that information and create a whole more of a holistic solution for our end customers.
And definitely. And also in the ethos of kind of new technologies, obviously we've spoken about AI, we're speaking about facial recognition and iris on the move technology, all these new technologies. And it feels very similar to how people were talking about cloud technology, only just a few years ago. No one kind of really thought that it was going to be adopted, but actually we're seeing, everyone's talking about or offering cloud solutions within as part and parcel of their solutions. So in your opinion, do you think cloud or edge technology, for example, is going to be preferred in the market? Or is it a kind of hybrid format or dependent on application?
Yeah, I would say the latter, hybrid format, because we know working with especially larger enterprise customers and larger entities, they will never allow other companies to get access to their data, right? So in that case, it's going to be hybrid. Now, where they, especially with government entities as well. We know, like, for example, working with in Dubai, they prefer to have all that information within their ecosystem versus allowing companies like us to manage that information in our environment, in our cloud. So I truly believe for I would say next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be hybrid. And eventually, just because globally there's blurring of lines, right? There information that's being shared across multiple continents, countries. I think eventually those lines are going to blur, and eventually the data will be accessible across multiple countries, and it will have to go into cloud, and that's where it probably is heading. It's going to head, and I truly believe that we have to, in order to kind of create efficiencies and technologies that can be shared across, nationally, especially when you're talking about it from a traveling perspective, immigration, air travel, that information has to be shared, right? To kind of create the user experience. Otherwise, can you imagine, Rebecca, enrolling in every country and every state and, every county? It becomes extremely, again, friction for the end user. So, yes, it's going to go towards the cloud, but right now, for the next few years, we truly believe it's going to be a hybrid situation.
Definitely. And I think the big point as well is latency. Cloud relies on having good internet connection, and that's so dependable where you are and what country you are, what provider you're with. I mean, I'm currently situated in a very remote location. I don't get access to broadband, for example. I have to use 5G and 4G business internet just to get internet in my house. So it's very dependent, I think, of where you are as well, and also the kind of values of the company. A lot of people might still prefer, on premise, for example. So it's very much dependent. So I think that's a good point. That for the moment, similar to mobile credentials, it's a stopgap until we see where this technology is heading.
Absolutely.
Just before we part as well, is there anything else that you have, any final thoughts that you have to add, or any other insights into the kind of the future landscape of biometrics?
No, all I have to is, thank you for having me. And first of all, I really appreciate it. When it comes to biometric technology, I'm very passionate about it because, I truly believe it's going to be the cornerstone when it comes to identity management, right? And it is something that it's going to become part of everyday and everybody's life in any application that the future holds. All I can tell you is biometrics is coming. Either you get on board or you're going to be left behind. That's what I truly believe. It's just a matter of now rest of the world adopting the technology and just coming to terms with the fact that if there's always those concerns around PII. If you're using social media and you're using Google and you're using Facebook and you're using other technologies, your data is being stored. It's just a matter of, there's these misconception where biometrics information can be used against you, which I truly believe it's, if put into hands of somebody who's nefarious, yes, I can imagine that. But again, the technology is here to stay. It's here to add to your user experience. It's here to really make your life easier and more secure.
Definitely. Well, great positive words to end on. So thank you, Bobby. If anybody has any further questions, obviously feel free to reach out to Princeton Identity directly, or you can connect with Bobby on the platform as well. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's been great here. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for your time as well.
Thank you. Take care.